Okay, I'd like to welcome all of you to this webinar and thank you for investing your time in learning how you can master your time and move from chaos into control. For those of you that don't already know me, my name is Phil Bajura and I'm honoured and feel very privileged to have gained significant business knowledge throughout my 30 plus years in senior management within the corporate food industry and in the last 14 years of being in business for myself. My purpose here today is to challenge your way of thinking about how you are currently utilising the time that is available to you. My goal is to inspire you to identify 3 to 5 key things that you can take away to immediately implement in how you can better utilise the time that is available to you and what changes you will make that will allow you to get more done in less time. We have a lot to cover today, so take as many notes as you need. And if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. If you haven't already, please open that chat box up now. So a little bit about Action Coach. It started 27 years ago in Queensland and has grown rapidly with now over 1,000 offices in more than 80 countries worldwide. And head office is now based in Las Vegas. The thing that makes us unique is that because we have 1,000 coaches around the world, we have all sorts of resources that we can draw on. We attend at least 2 conferences every year where we meet with other coaches and form relationships with them and learn from people who have experience where we don't. So there is a great depth of knowledge and resources that we can draw on. Our focus is on the small and medium-sized business community. So a little bit about the point of power. Now, we all know people that lay in their bed and all that they want to do is lay blame, find excuses, even worse, live in denial. We also know people that take their oar and steer their ship in the direction that they want through ownership, being accountable, and also being responsible. When you're below that point of power, you're actually in a powerless situation. You're not quite sure how to take the next step forward. And when you are above the point of power, you're in a powerful position. You know that you're in control. So above the point of power is about the what, the when, and the how. And below the point of power is about the who and the why. And then when you get down to that denial point, it's about withdrawing. And that's not a great place to be. So below the point of power is about the reasons, and above the point of power is about results. What you will get from today's session will be some BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious. While some of what we cover today may be new to you, there will be much more that you may have already heard, but you may not have acted on yet. Heard it, know that you should do it, but All right, so give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. Teach a person to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. An important part of learning is to learn it for yourself. When you learn things for yourself, you will default into applying those learnings day in and day out. That is, learning how to fish. So to get the most out of today's mastering your time information, ensure that you're taking some notes that you can go back to and then decide on those 3 to 5 things that you will immediately start to implement from today's learning. What you'll get from today's session will, okay, so that's a repeat slide, we'll forget that. Now, essentially I run 4 coaching programs which enable business owners to enhance their businesses and obtain the results and business that they dream about. There will be an opportunity later on to express your interest in how we might be able to work together if you are not already a client. Now, most people struggle with how to balance all of the tasks that they have in front of them and versus the time that they actually have available. So in fact, there'll always be more to do than what we will be able to accomplish. Today, we'll explore a number of ways in how we can better plan the time we have available to us and how to prioritize what is important, what we need to delegate, and then what we need to eliminate. So now just for some inspiration. So time is life's greatest asset. How are you using your time that is available to you? Everyone has the same 86,400 seconds. How are you using yours? So the silent thief. Have you ever reflected at the end of the day, what did I achieve today? Where did the time go? Let me ask, if you lost money in the business, is it possible to replace money? Yes or no?
Yes.
If you lost a team member, can you replace the team member? Yes or no?
Yes. Yep.
Yep. And when you lose time, can you replace that time? Yes or no? No. When you lose time, you can replace, time is that one thing that when it is lost, you can never replace it. This is why it is so important that we minimize the impact of the silent thief on the time that is available to us. So a little bit about the time target. So in the yellow outer circle, this is where we spend our time, and we call it a distraction. And the distraction is those things that are not urgent and they're not important. Some examples of that might be being distracted through, jumping on, looking at social media, jumping on, looking at what's happening on the news. That's just to give a few examples. In the green area, this is what we call the area of delusion. And these are the things that we make urgent, but in fact, they're not that important. So some of the things that might occur here is the fun stuff that we love to do, and but the reality is it's not important. An example there would be, now look, I'll come to that later on. In terms of the blue area, this is the urgent and important. It's the demand on our time. So this is essentially what we do when we're working in our job or within our business. And then the red area is what we call the zone. And the zone is those things that are not yet urgent, but they're important. And so this is where you're utilizing your time to pre-prepare, pre-plan, and have things ready for when they do become urgent. Do you feel like that you have no time to complete everything? Have you ever wondered why some people appear to get more done than others? Time management isn't just about doing things faster, it is about doing the right things first. So let's explore the 3 principles of mastering your time: self-mastery, planning mastery, and delegation mastery. There is no such thing as time management. What we have to focus on is self-management, doing what needs to be done rather than just putting out small fires and dealing with what is right in front of you in the moment. It takes outside discipline first, and eventually people will develop that internal discipline. Self-development work is a must. I've had some interesting discussions recently with some people who've been working from home and their ability to get things done versus avoiding the distractions that a home environment has to offer. This is where self-discipline really comes to the fore. For example, I now work virtually from home, and to keep myself disciplined with my time, I have an I am statement that I read every day, which says, I am starting work by 8 a.m. every day. And so my challenge for you is, what affirmations do you have regarding the self-management of your own time? If you don't have any, maybe this is one of those BFO moments and actions that you can take today as a step in managing your own time much better. A great read for inspiration and for what and how to get control over your time is Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog and his latest book, Kiss That Frog. A key point that Brian focuses here on is ugly frogs. Ugly frogs are those things we know we should be doing that will enable us to take a great step forward, but we procrastinate on doing those important things in favor of the easier things that we may have on our list. So urgency versus importance. Make a list of the next day's tasks at the end of every day. Take that list and break it into A, B, and C priorities. Use goals to help you focus on those activities. Then you're then at the point where self-mastery starts to kick in. So do A's first, B's if you get time, and the C's are to be delegated. Planning mastery, so moving from chaos to control. An interesting story. There was a study conducted at UCLA University more than 20 or 30 years ago. In that study, what they identified was out of a class of 20 students, that only 3% of them actually wrote their goals down. And the other 97%, there was 27% had goals in their minds, and 70% had no written or verbal goals or plans. What was interesting about this was that 20 years later, they went back and redid the same study on the same group of people. And what they found was that the 3% of the people who had written their goals down accounted for 98% of the wealth out of the whole group. So the importance here is, with your goals, your plans, it's so important you actually write them down. So a plan needs to be an action plan. It's the who, the what, the when, and the how. So based on what to do, not theory or what you might do, it's develop a plan to do what needs to be done. So a good plan is a simple plan. A plan allows you to manage your time and keep you focused on what is most important. That is, eating the ugliest frog first. So a business plan outlines your 1 to 5 year goals. The business plan is then broken down into annual goals. And from those annual goals, you then break them down to a 90-day plan, and you revise your 90-day plan every 90 days. The 90-day goals are then broken down to a weekly plan, and a weekly plan is then broken down into a daily plan. So what's important here is that when writing down your daily plan, the last 5-10 minutes of your workday is spent on writing down your plan for your next day. The importance for that is that this allows your subconscious to work for you overnight and help you identify solutions to any of the issues or problems that you may be identifying or facing in the following day. All right, so for every minute you spend in planning saves you 10 minutes in execution. Brian Tracy. So build the plan and work the plan. It is simple when you write it down on paper. Then obviously complete the daily to-do list as the last activity of the day. Planning covers many areas in business. Within Action Coach, we focus on the 6 levels to a better business, the 5 ways to increasing profits, and then the 4 ways to leverage. Invest enough time to think about, develop, and write your own plan. The default diary, or let's call it the default activity schedule. And this is, I've just used an example here of the default calendar that I use with Outlook. So plan your activities in your electronic calendar, set up repeating activities if appropriate, color code your activities by categories. That helps you with a quick reference to what's coming up next. The default is a plan, so things can be moved when changes happen outside your control. But be real careful that you don't make the changes because the change is for fun stuff that you may like to do. Focus on your ugly frogs first. So this is the Action Coach frog list, what we commonly refer to as our frog list. So if you'd like a copy of this, please email me and I'll send you a soft copy of it. So this is where you take 5 minutes at the end of each day just to list down what it is that you need to focus on tomorrow in terms of your ugly frog, and then what other activities are important for you to achieve. The third step in time mastery is delegation mastery. So again, moving from chaos to control. So a time study. Hands up. Has anybody conducted a time study on themselves before? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So this is a time study where you have a look at each half-hour block. What are the activities and things that you've been spending your time on? An example here is with one of my clients a number of years ago. This was a client that had quite a large workforce and quite a large fleet of vehicles. And when he conducted the time study, he identified, quite embarrassingly, I might add, that he was spending far too much of his time taking the vehicles down for their services. If they needed registration or new tyres, he was the one taking the vehicles. at the same time, he also identified that anything that was printer or computer related, if it broke down, he was the one spending the time trying to fix it. So when we had a discussion on this, and we looked at working out what was the real value of his own personal time, and versus if he was to pay somebody else to actually do these minor, more menial type of chores. In the case of the servicing of the vehicles, what we came up with, that he would be better to pay somebody as a casual or a part-timer to be focusing on that sort of detail, as well as there was some other things that could have been delegated to that person that would free up that business owner's time. In the case of the printers and the computers, he decided it was much better for him to outsource that to a third-party contractor. So sometimes when you do a time study of yourself, it will help you identify those areas, if we go back to the time target, where you're either in a distraction or a delusion area, that you can start to focus in, okay, what else can I do to free up the time that I'm spending there so that I can focus more of being in the action and working on the zone. So again, if you'd like a copy of that, please email me. Now, delegation is about you letting go as much as it is the team accepting the responsibility. Make sure that when you delegate, you don't just abdicate the responsibilities. So train, assist, and measure right from the start of whatever the task or the project is that you're delegating. Learn and understand the basics of how to delegate. You may want to check out my Delegating with Ease webinar on my YouTube channel for further learning. So the cycle of business. We define a successful business as being a commercial, profitable enterprise that runs without you. In most companies, the owner tries to run all three: team, customers, and business, and thus can't get it all done. We're going to change that here today. So the cycle of business is about where the owner supports the team by setting the strategies and giving direction, providing strong leadership, managing the cash flow, giving encouragement, and building systems. The team supports the customer with great sales skills, great service, great quality, and great consistency. And then the customers will support the business by coming back more often, spending more on each visit they make, and telling their friends about you and the business often. And in turn, the business supports the owner through profits and over time, less hours worked. So no matter what your role may be in the business, in order for you to gain real control over your time, you must realize that you have to surround yourself with people who are better than you and respect the value of your time and behave accordingly. So the Superman syndrome. You have to eliminate the need for doing and delegate those tasks and activities that you just cannot and do not match up with the mandated value of your own time. Calculate what the real value of your own hourly rate is worth to yourself and or the business. And this will help you understand where you should be spending your time. And it may not be in the area of the fun stuff that you really enjoy doing. Remember, or do you remember the story about the owner driving the vehicle down for the services? All right, so it's time to focus. Make sure that you're planning time to focus on building your own and the team's own personal productivity. Focus on the quality, the urgency, and the timeliness, and in particular, how you deliver your products and services consistently. Identify the high priority tasks and stick with them through to their completion. The Pareto Principle, otherwise known as the 80-20 rule. So the 80-20 rule is about the many and trivial tasks, that is 80% of where you spend your time, will only result in 20% of the results that you want to achieve. Those few vital tasks, or 20% of the time that you're spending on them, will result in 80% of the results that you will achieve. So ensure that you are focused on the simple things like invoices sent on time, too often when I have discussions with business owners and people responsible in the different roles within the business, is that they're not focused or focusing enough time on making sure that they have the right information available so that as soon as a job is completed, that they can send an invoice. Too often I've heard of stories about where somebody has forgotten that they've actually done a task or for somebody else, some work for somebody else, and then they end up forgetting to invoice, maybe even invoicing 6 or 12 months down the track. Not a great strategy for cash flow. So other things to focus on might include collection of debts, provisioning of your products and services, knowing what your KPIs are, implementing positive cash flow strategies. High productivity and activity is what the desired outcome is here when you get focused. So interruptions. To achieve peak productivity, you need to stop interruptions. Get lost in your own work. Make sure you don't answer the phone. Regulate the amount of social media and emails that you are viewing. Set the timer on your bomb. Be busy and be obvious about it. I once had a boss that I worked for that, so coming out of one business environment that had an open floor plan versus going into individual office environment. There was one boss I had mid-career who really taught me a great lesson. And the lesson that he taught me was that he didn't have the open door policy. Most of us have grown up, particularly from earlier eras, that we, as managers, we must have an open door policy. Steve actually taught me that the open door policy is a fallacy. And his way of dealing with it was that his door would always be either closed or ajar by about 6 inches. When the door was ajar by 6 inches, that was the signal that, yes, I can be interrupted, but it better be important. If the door is closed, talk to my secretary, I will get to you when I can. I very rarely ever saw him with a fully open door. And I was just used to be amazed at the amount of work that he was able to get through in a short space of time. So really consider what your policy is going to be about that open door policy. Set the timer on your bomb, be busy, and be obvious about it. Have a militant attitude. And what I mean by this is resent having your time wasted. Self-determination is just so important in the management of your time. How tough are you on those who would undervalue your time? For example, mates calling in for a chat or phoning you for a chat. How tough are you on yourself? Simply be inaccessible. Don't answer the phone if you don't have to. Have a receptionist, a voicemail, or an answering machine. For example, you could set your voicemail on your phone that you were working on. I'm currently helping my clients with their marketing, for example, and that I will call you back between 12 and 1 p.m. Then make sure that you actually do that. In the message, indicate that if it is urgent, you can send me a text message and I'll respond as soon as I can. Create a steel curtain of defense. Regulate social media and emails. Check them first thing in the morning, again at lunch, and then only deal with the urgent ones. Check them again at the end of the day. Quickly deal with the urgent ones, again, integrating all of the rest into your next day plan of action. Some additional great reading is The Go Zone by Mark McKeown. And I'll just spell that for you. Mark McKeown is spelled M-C-K-E-O-N, and the book's called The Go Zone. Here, Mark talks about the go zone, the slow zone, and the no zone. What this book will really teach you to do is how to be real militant with your time. So set the timer on the bomb. Be bold and assert your position. Oh, and by the way, it is okay to say no. Go as far as creating a script for yourself that will enable you to say no politely and assertively. If you do take an incoming call, set up an exit time right up front. So, hey, great to talk to you, Tim. I've just got 5 minutes until I have to go into another call or another appointment. So set the time on the bomb and be bold in doing that. Be busy and be obvious about it. Busy people are often less interrupted than unbusy people. Have you ever heard the saying, if you want something done quickly, ask a busy person? There's some real truth in that. When you are visible to others being visibly busy, educate your team members to stop coming to you for direction or solutions to their problems. Educate them to come with several solutions to their problems, and if they can't figure it out themselves, then when they do come to you, ask them short, simple questions that will help them come up with the answer. It's important here to not give or avoid the first nature to provide an answer or a solution for them. Honest self-analysis and self-understanding. What are your specialties that you do extraordinarily well? Delegate, replace yourself, hire someone who is better than you. Be open to and welcome your own dispensability. Know what you will do with your time, your new strategies. Is it explore new strategies? Is it expand the business? Set up a new branch? Look for the next new promotion? More golf? More family time? I think you're getting the picture. If you have to eat a frog, it doesn't pay to have to look at it for too long. Practice intentional procrastination and don't confuse activity with accomplishments. We cannot manage time. We can only manage ourselves. There will always be too much to do, so focus on the most important, highest impact tasks first. Do them really well and completely before moving on to the next activity. Use SMART goals. Get some clarity with SMART goals that will help you propel you forward at a rate that you may not have experienced before. Medium to long-term thinking will improve short-term decision making. Create a 90-day plan every quarter. Build time into your daily schedule for planning and add it to your default calendar. So spending 10% of your time on planning your tasks will save you 90% of your time in execution to complete that task. So again, in time utilization techniques, here the Pareto Principle also applies to how we are spending our time. So when you focus 80% of your time on those few vital tasks, you will achieve a much higher level of the results that you are aiming to achieve. So this is the secret to how some people achieve more than anyone else in less time. So next time you ask yourself the question, how does Angie get so much more done when nobody else seems to be able to achieve the same amount that she is achieving? So again, this is the secret to how people do it. The key is not to prioritizing what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. So remember, at the end of every day, just spend that 5 or 10 minutes planning your next day's activities. Identify and eliminate all constraints. Stay above the point of power. A positive mind finds opportunity in everything, while a negative mind, that is, being below the point, finds fault in everything. If it appears to be too much, break it up into smaller chunks. Use an accountability partner to assist in keeping you focused on the right things. So there are 86,400 seconds in a day. It's up to you to decide what to do with them. Your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. Remember, time is life's greatest asset. How are you going to use your time that is available to you? So we've covered a lot in the last 60 minutes or so. If there's any questions that you may have, just type them into the chat box. And at the same time, let's just take a few minutes for you to write down your 3 to 5 key things of value that you've learned today and commit to yourself what actions you will take immediately. I'll just play that video again whilst you're doing that. Just take a few minutes to write down your own activities. So what are the next steps? Action will always be intention. Decide what action you'll take right now. So if you are a business owner and are serious about learning how to implement the information from today's session effectively, please email me requesting a complimentary 2-hour strategy meeting. I will come back to you with some alternate dates that we may align our calendars with. Email me right now at philbadura@actioncoach.com, or alternatively visit my website businesssteps.actioncoach.com and enter your details in the contact page with the comment strategy meeting. Thank you for investing your time today, and please remember to reach out. I'm here to help. And now it's time to get into action and make the most of the time that's available to you.